Okay, so thanks for being here. I'm really excited to introduce someone that you all know and love, but I think his bio is worth mentioning if you're not familiar with all the things that he does. Patrick has joined us now on the faculty here for 2 years or 3 years. This is third, I believe. And he comes to us with an incredible background, and I'm really excited and pleased to be performing with him on this masterclass where he's going to be talking about production and performance and all of these different elements that he brings to his music making. Professor Decomet is a 6-time Emmy-winning composer, music producer, audio director, educator, and renowned guitarist. He creates original scores internationally serving film, TV, video game, and advertising industries. He's produced soundtracks for Walt Disney, Netflix, Canal, ABC, Ubisoft, Sci-Fi, USA Network, Comcast, etc. He was born in France and currently resides in Philadelphia. He studied music at the Berklee College of Music, where he was awarded a Berklee Faculty Award. He is the composer and audio director of the Emmy Award-winning documentary series Philadelphia, The Great Experiment, which is a 14-episode historic series that originally aired on 6 ABC. And his work can be heard in the last 2 seasons of Jerry Seinfeld's Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. Over the years, his exposure to world cultures has significantly influenced his musical universe, and as a guitarist and composer, his collaborations with Caribbean and West African musicians while living in Guadeloupe and Paris inspired him to develop a musical language that transcends his Western roots. His progressive world fusion group has included internationally renowned musicians such as Richard Bona, Pat Metheny, Bobby McFerrin, Herbie Hancock, Will Calhoun, and the list really goes on and on. Here, we are so pleased and honored to have him teach our scoring for film and digital media class, as well as the scoring and audio design for video game courses, as well as others. I would like to welcome to the stage Patrick Decomet.
I didn't mean for this thing to be so long, but thank you, Adam, so much. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I've been accepted in the family here, and with all of you also, that really make a big part of my day. And so thank you for being here. I wanted actually to start with our little speech and do music first, but let's get to it first, and then we'll check. Hopefully this microphone works. It does. All right, great. It's quite a setup. So with the pandemic, no more gigs, so no more opportunities to pack it up and unpack it and rewire it. And 2 years without doing it, boy, was I rusty. So I was running out of time here, and I thought I wouldn't be ready for this. So anyway, it's a happy ending for now. Thank you so much. Okay, that sounds good one. Okay, hello. Again, thank you so much for being here. It's great. I'm very grateful that Adam is playing the bottom with me tonight. We just had one run through for 40 minutes on Monday, but it's going great. So let's knock on wood. Well, I would like to welcome you to this presentation here, which is kind of a concert and master class, whatever it is. The opportunity for me is really to share what it is that I love to do so much, and also share my insights of how, to me, technology has evolved and how it has influenced me. So it's kind of a personal journey a little bit that I'm going to go through. I'm not going to cover everything, of course. There's not enough time. But I hope to, share some insights with technology and my way of doing it. It's not unique. It's not the only way to do it. We all are creative people, and we can approach it and adapt it to our needs. So, but however, this is, what I have currently, with technology, and I'll also talk about how when technology evolved, I found sometimes challenges would arise with this kind of new medium and the way, the relationship we have with it. So let's see if I can get that going. It's a little difficult to do everything here, but do I have yes. So next page, my friend. Yeah, because this is not connected to the projector. So Rebecca is really nice. She's in the booth over there drinking champagne and helping me out. So this is my setup here. I'll start with this because it's right in front of me. That's the sounds you hear. And it is the result of, years of trying to figure out what was the best system and trying to get creative. The first thing I'll say is, to me, Midi was the revolution when it came around. I was not even aware of it. I was probably your age when it came around in '83, so 24 maybe. And, synthesizers were around. We were aware that something had happened, but it didn't impact me for a long time. And I find myself now, thanks to Midi, I find myself using this as my main platform from production. Not so much on stage in some ways, but in some others, yes, it's very much on stage as well. So it's a differentiation between being a performer and using Midi and being a producer, but the two absolutely connect via Midi. So I'm going to get into that to get started. But here you have several things, and I don't know how, yeah, you can see it. So if you're a guitar player, how many guitar players are here? I'm curious. There's always quite a few guitar players, right? And so good. I mean, some of you, and if you're not, don't worry, I'm covering also a number of other things connecting to performing with Midi and not being a guitar player. So, but this thing right here, the top left, you see is the Kemper profiling amplifier. It's phenomenal. I don't work for them. I don't get a cut or any sort of interest with it, but I have researched and changed my guitar sound so many times, and I've tried just about everything. Rockman, and of course amplifiers, Marshall, Fender, Vox, PV, Mesa Boogie. I tried a whole bunch of things. And you're always pursuing this ideal sound that you have in your head. And I have to say that to me, I've had the Kemper for like 2 years, and it's like the best thing I ever had the opportunity to own and try out. So the concept, talking about technology, is that this thing is not an amp. This little box that looks like a German radio. It looks like a German radio, but it's actually not an amplifier. It steals the identity of any other amps. So basically, it sends a sweep. You sweep it through any amplifier that you choose, and it analyzes the response of the sweep and copies it and steals it. And so you end up with one unit, and it's pricey, okay? It's like between $1,500 and $2,000, but think about, 2 amps. And anyway, it allows you to keep the profiles of all the greatest amplifiers in the world. So, and that's what allows me to switch radically from funk and have a really funky, clean, crisp sound, and then switch to Bugner, super distorted,
just at a touch of one of these controllers. So a great technology, phenomenal. Germany, the same guys that, the same company that created the virus. So you know the virus, same German company that did this. And that has been a blessing. Now, I mean to elaborate a little bit later on guitar synthesizers and Roland, but the first thing that is kind of at the center also of what I do is a looper, you know, because my idea at first, I was, most of the time I didn't, I'm sorry I talk a lot. Those that know me, they know I can do that. I'm trying to rush so we get to play more music. But when you're creating on the spot, but you want to perform by yourself, either you're Joe Pass or somebody that is really capable of doing guitar solo chords, beautiful stuff all night, Paco de Lucia, John McLaughlin, these people can be on stage by themselves. I started as a rock guy, and I never really developed the full control of the instrument on my own and do these beautiful, elaborate pieces. The trio was probably my first choice, bass, drums, and guitar. That is like what I liked the most at the time. But eventually I decided that, hey, when there are no players around, I should be playing still. And once the technology was good enough, and even early on, you find ways to make it happen, to record yourself, create some loops, and being able to improvise over the loops makes, to me, the whole fun. I'm a rock guy, but then I went into jazz, and so improvisation is a great element of music as far as I'm concerned. The unforeseen, let's create something on the moment, because you are talking to me, and we have a communication and language. So this is a little different in that regard, but it does allow you to create these castles or these, paintings, layering things on the top of each other. So the looper is essential. This one has 3 different loops that can go on at the same time. It's not perfect. It's pretty old by now, but it's the latest model. They haven't really updated it, Roland. And then to go fast, I'm also playing with a Midi guitar. So it's this one here. It's the one in the middle there. It's just a Midi guitar, so it's connected into my guitar here. Oh, and I realized that I never had my synth sounds going on while I was playing that tune, because it was unconnected. So yeah, I have a connector right here that goes into the MIDI synthesizer. It's a 13-pin connector, MIDI connector. And then to finish, because I'm not quite happy with just the sounds from that box, because it's pretty old, I'm going into my laptop. And I'm triggering a soft synth called Omnisphere, and those that, you've heard me also rant about Omnisphere. So again, I'm only saying it because I love those modules, and it's kind of pricey, but it's a great piece of gear. So anyway, all of this to create all these textures, loop them, and I can loop my synth from my looper, and of course my guitar from the camper. And this is just monitoring my sound, so I can always have a decent sound on stage, no matter what's happening in the room. Okay, not to bore you too much, we're going to go quick, but MIDI, a musical interface, musical instrument digital interface, came around in 1983, in the summer of '83, between 2 companies that created this language that all manufacturers would adapt. That was important in order for this thing to be standard and have a chance to survive. And they created an interface that would translate the sound, vibrations, or contact into a digital code. And so, yeah, it's a 5-pin connector at the time. You probably know only USB, but we didn't have USB back then. It was a 5-pin connector. And you could translate the sound of your instrument, in a digital code, which changed everything. The only problem as a guitar player is the difference is that a keyboard player has an instant contact, triggering a specific note. But with a guitar, we don't have that. And so we need to translate and catch the vibrations from the strings and translate them into MIDI. And the problem is that it's not very fast compared to a keyboard. There's like this time spent analyzing, and also in its analysis, it also kind of captures unwanted pitches, because you know the overtone series, and when you're capturing the frequencies that are coming from a vibration, you're going to capture everything, and the MIDI pickup for a guitar picks up the overtone series too. So you're playing just a G chord, and I may have skipped a little bit, but That's the vibration issue that we have with guitar, is that it's not a simple contact that triggers a note on, and then the pitch, and then the velocity, and all the information. No, it needs to be translated, and therefore there's latency with guitars. And for example, and misinterpretation of the pitch. So I don't know, it's very, oh, sorry, Rebecca, my friend, I've already moved 2 pages. So if you could go forward to the piano roll page, can it, gray? Keep on going, one more, I think. Yeah, that's it. So I played a straight G bar, bar chord, G. Well, that's not exactly the sound I was hoping for here, but anyway, I played a G and the synthesizer MIDI, and I didn't strum really hard. If you really bang on this guitar, you're going to create a lot of harmonics and overtones. In this case, it was gentle, the way I did. And yet, at one point, the analysis is kind of hesitating. It first goes to like maybe a G, A sharp maybe, and then it goes to a G sharp, back to G. It's like hesitating. Eventually, it goes to the right note. But for a while, it's reading, it's confused because the strings vibrate. And as you hit a string, initially, that strong motion makes the pitch a little sharp. And then when the string starts relaxing, the pitch realigns where it should be. And so we have these artifacts when we play this instrument, and it's kind of a challenge. Next slide, my friend. Thank you. So the Roland series, that is really, when I started looking at guitar synthesizers and I could see one and try one, it was Roland really that pushed the envelope for us for a long time. And the first one to your top left is the GR800. The problem with it is that you had to buy the whole thing. If you had a nice guitar, you still needed to buy a guitar because it's the only way it would work. So there's been like fun models like the one on the top to the right. I remember somebody lent it to me one day, and I was having a ball, finally being able to play instruments that have different textures than what I get from a guitar. And to me, I'll stop here for a second because that's the essential point. So why this technology? Why Midi guitar? Why can't you be happy with what you have? Well, I love the instrument, but I also love piano. I also love brass. I love strings. There's a lot of bass. There are a lot of things that I love. But, I'm limited. It's a beautiful instrument, and we could say that with everything, right? Piano is beautiful, but can you do, quarter tones or micro tuning? You can. And we all have limitations in the instruments that we play. And so what I really love about being able to use the MIDI is that I can have a way longer sustain than the guitar string is capable of doing. A guitar string is a fairly, the vibration dies quickly. It's not very sustainable. That's why also I kind of like the rock and distortion, because it allows you to have slurred notes and long sustains, much longer than normal. But MIDI allows me to have all these colors now. And of course, there's a little bit of getting used to how to trigger, not to be too, the gentler, the better. People that have good right hands, I have a pick, but my right hand is not great. But it's really nice to play with fingers as well. Eventually, the revolution was that we finally could buy a pickup, which is at the GK3 right now, at the bottom, and we could put it on any guitar. So you need to buy another guitar at a big expense. And using floor models, I used to have that guy, and now this one here is there. And also the one to the right is just a small converter where you could do it without buying the sounds and the floor pedals. But it's really fantastic. In my case, don't look for a pickup because it's built into the bridge. So my MIDI pickup is built in. Okay. I think I put that here, but it's not very important. Really amazing. 2 slides up, Rebecca, please. Amazing new instruments were created. Not this one, the next one, please. There. The syntax. So that was like a new thing, and as you can see, it's kind of they stop the neck right here, and then the part to trigger the strings is located on a different axis. Which reduces the length of the strings on the neck, which will create less harmonics, which is desirable, and allow you to control it from here. Rebecca, can you hit the link that is right underneath? So there's a short thing about one of the greatest guitar players of all, one of the greatest guitar players of all time, Alan Holdsworth, and he's discussing it for a minute. Let's see if we have sound. Well, you can hear him now. We cannot see him, but you can hear him. Can we have a picture too? Very technical stuff. That's him right there, yeah. And now we have the picture, but we don't have the sound. Amazing guitar player, really unique in his genre, influenced a ton of metal players as well. But he was not metal, he was more of a fusion guy. He played with John McLaughlin, he played with Tony Williams, the band UK, a number of things. And so it forces you also to adapt your technique in this case. It's not conducive. Rebecca, we're going to skip it, it doesn't matter. Hopefully next one. So here is one more slide up, my dear. We're going to go, I tried something else, because, okay, strings, you know, all the imperfections of these overtones and whatnot. So are there other solutions? There's one, and it's the Zitar. So I got that at one point. Rebecca, we see the morning show here. If we could go back to the PDF presentation, I would like you to see it to understand it would be easier. I think we're getting there. There, okay, one more down. So this one I had. I don't know if you can really see it clearly, but instead of strings, you have mini keys. So each of these red and white lines there is a series of keys, or little tiny keys, and you play it on the, like this. And the great thing, again, one of the huge limitations for a guitarist is do clusters. How do you clusters on guitar? You know, you need to stretch so badly. So let's say I have a C here, I'm going to get a C sharp here. Now to get a D, I can do it with the open strings, but it's like hell for us. But if you have this guitar, now you can press 3 or 4 keys that are lined up in the same line, and you have instant chromatic stuff. So, and the response was really good. And for a while, I did I wrote a few pieces. I'll play you one briefly. Rebecca, can you hit the length? And I'm sorry, you have kind of the crummy job. And that's a demo I did for a company called Vienna VSL, Vienna Symphonic Library. It's an Austrian company, very famous with the virtual instruments. And they created a Spanish guitar, nylon guitar, and I did this demo with them. If we can hear it, I'm not sure. Is it playing? The first one at the top, the first one. Briefly, just to show you, using an entirely different approach, but capturing a guitar performance. Do we have sound? We cannot hear anything. No. Okay, well, I think we're going to skip the examples. It's a shame, but it doesn't matter. Okay. So, well, why don't we play now, maybe? We're going to play one. I think it's enough, blah, blah. Give your ears a break. Well, maybe not. So this one, I'd like to tell you about. It's a tune that I wrote 30 years ago called Peace of Mind. It's funny how it came to me. I just had this riff that came in my head, a 5/4 thing that just out of the blue just popped up. And right away I grabbed that. I say, oh, I like that. Let me try to find something with it. And eventually I was lucky to have great players performing on it. Ralph Bowen is really an amazing sax player. He plays the soprano. Richard Bona played on the original. You're not going to hear that because I'm using loops and not the full version. And a really dear friend of mine, and I'm mentioning this because he passed away, and his bass is present in my loops. So Doumbé Jenge from Cameroon was one of my best friends, and I always kind of play this tune in his honor. So this is called Peace of Mind. It takes a little while to make everything happen here, but usually people would be drinking, they'd be in a club, a bar, and having a beer and not paying attention. It wouldn't matter so much. So I encourage you to talk to your neighbors right now. All right, here we go.
sorry. I have the luxury of being able to check my tuning. So, like when I started the first tune, I don't know how that happened, but the E was down to an E flat, which gave me very interesting result that I was not completely expecting. There, now I think we're good.
Thank you so much, my friend. Okay, well, I don't know what time it is, but I know we still have time, I'm assuming. So let's continue a little bit. And if you can hit the next slide, Rebecca, that would be fantastic. So other type of MIDI controllers. The Zen drum is one of them that I used to own at one point. Great for percussionists. For Adam, that would be fantastic. Because super sensitive, these little pads on which you finger, and very sensitive, so you can apply dynamically very soft attacks and get oh, we're back to Succession. Okay, but anyway, so ideal for playing, you can play drums with it. In my case, I'm a terrible piano player. I can play the piano. And I can bang a little more, you know, like a percussionist, even though I'm not a good percussionist. But that was a good way to create a series of notes, and I would determine my tonality, and I would be hitting it and actually playing piano parts with that. So here we go. So interesting instrument. Because we don't have sound on these links, and it's, you know, we're just going to forget about it. I won't play the examples. It would have been nice to see it. Bella Fleck and the Flecktones, the Victor Wooten's brother, what is Future Man? He was using this on stage. You know, he didn't have a drum kit. He was using this to replace the drum kit. And then we have, unfortunately, I really wanted to show you this. The iwi now is for wind players that use their mouth to produce a sound. And the iwi is a fantastic instrument, and one of its masters is Michael Brecker, one of the greatest sax players to ever live, that passed a few years back. Unfortunately, Michael was amazing as a sax player, but also a master of the iwi. Unbelievable stuff, such musicality. So yes, that was for our wind players, so percussion, winds, guitar. Another thing I do, again, the links prevent me from playing you stuff, but another thing I do when I score for orchestras, you know, my strings I can either do on the keyboard or with the mouth, or I can use my MIDI controller to play some fast lines, string lines. Actually, there's a nice translation between the guitar and strings because it's strings, right? So, and also the ability to, as you bend a little bit the notes, not to have perfect pitch all the time, and the guitar does that, and the violinist will do that. So it's a great translation. But for wind instruments, as you know, when you're trying to program woodwinds or brass, in MIDI and you're on the keyboard, it's not the ideal, instrument controller to do so. But at the very least, what I do to compensate is I use a breath controller. So you can see this guy over there. You have like a mouthpiece in your mouth, and you're actually blowing the way you would blow, well, not exactly the way you blow in your flute, but you apply air pressure, and you can control the volume, or you can control the amount of vibrato in the sound with the mouth. And so it allows you, even though you have the limitation of an instrument that doesn't really translate to wind, it allows you to actually inject that in the performance, and the performance being production when you're doing production. So I love that way to compensate and get closer to the original instrument. Okay, well, now let's see. Yes, I kind of skipped around a little bit, so I'm going to go back to this. Rebecca, I'm sorry, it's going to be page 4. If you could go back to page 4, talk about the MIDI in general. I mean, who doesn't know what MIDI is here? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, but briefly, let's say one thing. MIDI 1, 1983, it came about, and with this, as you know, we can select any pitch, trigger that pitch, for that pitch to be recognized and placed at the time of the attack with a note on. And we have then the pitch bend. We have control changes, and control changes are really important because they are what brings expression to the music. For example, with tone and timbre, if you blow into a horn and you blow at a very soft dynamic, the horn is going to be round and warm. but as you increase your dynamic, the horn is going to turn brassy and have a lot of harsher overtones and metal sounding. And so with MIDI, we can control that. We can create instruments that have the ability to be really in any register dynamically and any timbre associated with that dynamic. And so it's very useful that way. This was really an amazing feat when it came out. We have the limitation, as you know, to have only 128 numbers or different degrees or levels of information. And so that's why we have with like our control change number 7, which is general volume, we have 128 possibilities volume-wise from nothing, and then 128. But pitch would be a problem because there's no way we can limit a performance in pitch to 128 microtones. That would not nearly be enough. So what they decided to do in MIDI 1 is to take actually 2 of those control changes and join them into one, multiplying each other by its number. So it's 128 multiplied by 128, and the answer is 16,129 pitch variations in a half step in order to give you a more believable performance that a vocalist or a violinist or a flute player would do with these small increments of pitch. So those were great features. And now what I want to say is that we have in 2019, MIDI 2 came around. It's been 40 years with the first standard MIDI 1.0. It came about. So just to be thorough, what does it offer? What is really 40 years for what? So one of the things is that now when you play chords, polyphony, you can have control over every single note within that chord, pitch-wise. So you can pitch notes in different directions and completely independently in polyphony. So that may be interesting. It may do something. Also, we are in 32-bit now for the resolution, and it's a much smoother, continuous analog feel when you use the mod wheel or control changes to affect something. 32,000 controllers now, so certainly I don't feel, and maybe I'll close with that, even though I could discuss all day. I don't feel that I'm really truly limited when I use these instruments. And I could say the same for sequencers. When I started using them, and I've shared that with you maybe, is that at first, why harnessing? Why harnessing technology? I feel that at first, when I approach technology for the first time, and I don't know that one system, it kind of wants me to go along with what it can do according to its own rules. You have to kind of submit to its rules and use its own logic in order to achieve something. And I don't feel that it's totally liberating. I noticed, for my part, that after using it and submitting to the logic and the rules, I was able eventually, get in control, to force the machine to do a little bit what I wanted to do as well. And so there's this constant battle and trying to stay on the top, make sure you get all the expression that you're looking for and the results that you're looking for, and maybe break the rules and find your own voice within it without letting it dictate what it is that you should be doing in music. So that's why I call this thing harnessing. And when you see me struggling with all these pedals, it's kind of, it is a boxing match in a way, but a peaceful one as long as it works. So anyway, I don't know, I have no idea about time, so I don't want to cut it short. I don't want to make it too long. I hope you're not bored too much, and you don't regret it. Remember, your grades are going up just because you showed up, so just kidding. Okay, so we're good. We're going to finish this, and we had to do that. We're going to be rocking out in Rock Hall. So, and for those whose sensibilities are not totally into this, I apologize. I had a lot of different music, string quartets and flamenco and stuff to show, but we improvised, which is, what my life has been and all of our lives. So anyway, we'll do a little Q&A if you want, after this tune, if you have any questions. And again, should I say it now? No, I'll say it later. Here we go. That's called Dark Matter. 1, 2, yeah, thank you so much. Well, you know, it's time to part, unfortunately. Before we go, though, I would like to thank everybody that has been working on this. You know, it's incredible because I'm like, oh, I'd like to kind of perform and do a master class, and I didn't realize the amount of work involved. So, you know, Adam has been tremendous in helping me. Sandy, that is somewhere in the building, also has been incredible. David, everybody that contributed, Rebecca, my friend here, I forgot your name, but thank you so much, super. And all of you, of course, for being here. So it means a lot to me. Hopefully you got some moments that you enjoyed in there, and hope to see you around, my friends. But thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dănilă. Just with our last minute here, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, yes.
Any questions? I will repeat them at the microphone just so that people can hear on the stream. Yes?
So it sounded like at some points the guitar was going like down an octave. Was that through the amp that was happening, or how was that?
Oh, you mean...
So let me just repeat the question so people can hear on the stream. So the question was that it sounded like the guitar was going down an octave at one point, and how did that happen?
Yeah, oh well, I should... If it's a Zoom thing, you know, I cannot just be near you guys.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're right. Actually, the bass, I mean, you know, guitar down an octave, you're getting into like the bass register. Not a 5-string, you're missing still some of the low end, but it's good enough to go down to another E. That I'm doing through my guitar rig, because as you know, the bass, you really need to for the bass to be tight. You need to, you know, in a band, if the drummer and the bass are not tight, you know, you're in trouble. And because of the latency of the Midi guitar, it would not be good, you know, especially me, I'm sending it through the Roland, that is sending it to the laptop, that is sending it to the sound card. So latency is bad. The cool thing about using my guitar module, that has a pitch shifter, so you shift down 12 steps. And the response is way better because it's actually analog from, you know, getting into the guitar module, that's it. It's a 1/4 inch into the guitar. So that's the way you get a tighter bass, you know. And then it doesn't really matter if your pads have a little latency, you know. I mean, also I blend this latency synth sound with my guitar that has an attack. So the guitar attacks, and even if everything is a little bit shifted, it's like being in a delay in a way. It's not necessarily unpleasant, you know. But good question, because that's the only way I would not get latencies through the guitar rig. Do you have any questions, maybe? Yes, my friend.
I'm curious about, other than the looping pedals that you're using, you have the Dănilă pedals. I don't know like, if you're using them for velocity or sustain. I'm just curious about like what you're using them for.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So the question was about what the pedals, particularly the ones that have a continuous control, are used for.
I have actually on the floor, aside from the units I showed you, I have 6 controllers here on the top of it. The big metal one is just a volume pedal, so for my guitar. Unfortunately, I cannot have it all rigged in one, so I have independent volume pedals for the guitar and the synths. So which is also useful. Another one that I didn't really use today because none of the tunes that I selected for this performance needed it, but it's a wah pedal, but it's also an expression pedal, so I can send any control change into any of my modules to change a specific parameter. Now, the fantastic thing, also a volume control on the loops, that's kind of, I have 2 that are going into the camper, but that are really useful. The first one right here, which is an old Roland or Yamaha volume controller for a keyboard, you know, and they are compatible with this. It's MIDI. This one is controlling what is called a morph in this module, and the morph is the ability for your system to remember 2 different settings independently from each other in one patch. So I have, for example, I'm playing this crunchy guitar, you know, comping, and then I want to turn into the lead. Going down like this with this pedal, I can go to a second state, which may have different reverb settings, different overdrive settings, different EQs, and you can morph from one to the other seamlessly. It's not like you're changing a patch, you're still in the same patch. So the sound is not interrupted, and you're able to move from one to the next. So I can add, like I said, different delay settings, different reverb, and it's the same sound. And I have another one on the guitar that also is kind of a general volume for the synth sound. You know, and to be honest, I feel that I'm only scratching the surface, because I can see how we could have several other levels of control and kind of partnership with the technology. Like Adam has this in his laptop. He has an automated mixing board that you can start effects or cut effects when you want to, put them into like weird processing. So having a mixing board really useful, but I'm already carrying so much gear, and I'm getting old, so there's limits to what I'm willing to do at this stage, but certainly I can see how conceptually so much can be done. And you are the ones that are going to do it, right? You're the new generation. So, any other questions?
So I actually have a question that bridges really nicely with what you just said. So you have such a great artistic practice that really utilizes MIDI in all these incredibly advanced and expressive ways. And I'm curious for our future researchers and projects who might be interested in doing MIDI things, what's missing or not up to snuff? Sort of what would in your mind be some next stage things that you'd like to see developed or something like that even could be possibly projects?
Oh boy, yeah. I would love a little headband that you put here, and you can just think of all the lines, and they just come out exactly the way you want all the time. That would be nice. More practical. My looper, I'd like my looper to be better, more independent, one loop to the other. There's several ways you can set it up. And yes, it's still flexible, but I can imagine really true independence between each of the loops. And the ability, if you want to quantize them together, but not at all. This should be very soon. I mean, I don't see why we should be limited. And to tell you the truth, I keep abreast of everything that comes out, but not everything. And there may be already on the market some loopers that are great. This was the best compromise to me, but I would definitely change the looper. I would make a latency-free MIDI, with guitar. So no delays, which again is limiting. So that would be fantastic. And that's what I had with the Zitar that I showed you earlier with all the plots, like playing a keyboard on mini keys on the neck. I had no latency, but it was so foreign to my, we play our instrument. We've been performing and practicing our instruments. We have a relationship with them, which is even physical. Hopefully you don't have a hateful relationship with the instrument. Sometimes we do because we're frustrated, but in general, I would be hoping that you have this relationship. And I really need the organic feel of a guitar. I like the response of the strings on my fingers. And when you take something so different, I had to abandon that one instrument. So my answer to you, this one. My answer to you is make it like you keyboard players are so spoiled and you don't even know it, which is you press the note and it's right there right away. So that would be phenomenal. And then, if it's a trick question. We can be here for a long time. But look, in reality, today is pretty amazing as it is. You're born into it, so maybe you don't quite realize the improvements in our lifetime from the time we were kids to now. So there was no MIDI when I was around. There was no sequencer. There was I remember the first time one phasing pedal came out. That was like the first time there was a modulation effect as a pedal. First drum machine, so this is unbelievable. Now if we could change more of the business of music and being exploited all the time, but that's a different subject, so let's not get into it now. But technology is amazing, and I can't wait to see what it gives us next. The last thing I would mention is actually more of a question, is we've managed to change currents of music and have new trends very often due to some technology being discovered, created. When electric guitars came around, when the drum kit, came around, synthesizer, electric piano, Fender Rhodes, that had an influence. And you guys certainly, we're kind of in a saturated market. There's so much stuff coming out every day, so often. So I really wonder what the next trend is going to be. And to be positive and close this, I would say that what I value most is actually my interactions with human beings as a musician. That the technology is a beautiful thing, and it allows us to really go much further, but not at the cost to me of the relationships and playing together on stage. And for some reason, and I don't know if you agree, but I would think that any trend stays for a while, and that's all we hear, and that's the only way, people function. And then the next generation is like, that's what my parents were doing. I don't want to be doing what my parents are doing. You're listening to Elvis, I'm going to listen to the Beatles. Listening to the Beatles, I'm going to listen to whatever, Earth, Wind and Fire, or new things that come around. And so I would think, and I hope, that we keep the technology, but the next generation, or maybe ourselves, at one point, really make sure that we also do stuff where we unplug, where what if the electricity went out? What if all that stuff? Who are you now as an artist? So I think it's important to have this interaction and play live at the same time.
That's very well said. I think we see the more technology advances, the more essential it is that it's about humans communicating and expressing to other humans. So thank you so much. And so, lock that away. If you make a very, very low latency guitar MIDI pickup, maybe that's the big money maker. So keep it in mind. For time, maybe we'll stop there. I'm sure if you have any other questions, feel free to come up, and we'll both be happy to even maybe leave our stuff up for just a minute. And I just want to say thank you so much again, Professor Dave Matt, for this great presentation. Thank you all for being here.
Now, if you want to hang around and help me pack up my gear and bring it to the car, I'm kidding.
See you again, Dr.
Yeah, so there's nothing. There's lots of things. I mean, obviously, kind of